Hello, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. I'm so excited. This is a very happy time because I believe that the holidays, now that we're in December, is a time for horror, as is the upcoming Trump administration 2.0, because we need more American carnage, apparently. 49.9% of Americans voted for carnage. It's exciting, right? As the Chinese expression goes, may we live in interesting times. But you know what was also an interesting time? We are here tonight to talk about 1977's The Sentinel, based on a New York Times bestseller. Obviously, 77 will always inextricably be linked to the release of Star Wars, which game changed cinema. It was a throwback to film serials of the 30s and the 40s. Lucas came up with this great vision coming off of a THX 1138 and then American Graffiti, and then he comes up with Star Wars. The rest is history. I love that we're talking about The Sentinel tonight. Michael Winner, you got to love a director who has a name like Winner. It's better than Taylor Hackford. You don't want to be a director maybe named with Hack in the title. That's a note I have. Others might not share it. This film is clearly reacting to the success of Rosemary's Baby in the late 60s. I would say The Exorcist. And so Universal Pictures optioned this best-selling novel, threw it into a horror big screen film, and it's kind of just winning. It's New York in a time capsule. It has a great cast, which we're going to get into. It's a who's who of great actors from, I would say, old classic Hollywood and the beginning of up and coming Hollywood. So you've got people like Ava Gardner. You got to love any woman who broke Frank Sinatra's heart. Come on now. You got Ava Gardner. She's the real estate person with a great, fabulous white hat. You've got Jose Ferrer. You've got Martin Balsam. You know him falling down the stairs in expert fashion from Psycho. You've got Sylvia Miles, hi, Midnight Cowboy, also in a great Sex and the City episode where she grinds up her drugs and puts them into a coffee and scares Carrie Bradshaw, which is hard because Carrie Bradshaw scares a lot of us sane women. That's a different story. But you've got this great cast. You have Jeff Goldblum showing up. You have Richard Dreyfuss in a just the camera passes by cameo. You've got really talented actors who are about to be something, and then great stars that are eternal. It's this wonderful cross section of Hollywood trying to ape trends of horror and mainstream and bestseller. I don't know, zhuzh. And so it's like really fun. I'm excited to talk about this movie, and I'm so excited because we have tonight he's playing the role of John the Baptist, but we know him as John Hilary Shepherd, who is amazing. So I'm excited he's back to the program. He brought us the Towering Inferno the last time that he was playing in our sandbox. So we're going to get back into that. He's being very Christmas to me, and he has a really cute like Santa hat. So preview for that. But in the meantime, I want to bring up my partner in mayhem. Tonight, he's playing the role of Succubus Anderson, which is a really cool thing for a man to play, you know, when we're talking about the Sentinel. I want to bring him up. He's an actor. He's a dad. He's a great husband. He's just like a really cool dude and frankly needs to be working more. So everybody fucking hire
Todd
Anderson.
Hire me. Stop not hiring me and start hiring me.
Forgive him for not being a Nepo baby and just like let him make your stuff better.
Some people think I'm related to Tom Hanks. Isn't that good enough?
It should be.
My God. My God.
Succubus.
I am here, Tracy. I am here.
You are, and you're great. By the way, I don't want to be like, because I'm not usually somebody who notices outfits, but do you have like 5, 7 Camp Crystal Lake shirts? How many styles do you have?
I have at least 7 or 8. Friday the 13th shirts, several of which are just Camp Crystal Lake counselor things, and I also have a pullover hoodie that's a Camp Crystal Lake counselor. I have a thing for Friday the 13th. I don't know. I don't know. I accept that none of these movies are good. I accept that as a critical reality.
Make us happy. They, by definition, are good, which is what our show is all about. We celebrate the good and the bad and the ugly oftentimes. I understand. See, I feel like I'm failing because going through my head right now. I think I only have 5 Alien shirts, but I do have 6 Halloween shirts.
Oh yeah, I have 1 Halloween shirt. And I have one, the Warriors shirt.
Well, yes,
I have a couple Indiana Jones shirts. I
yes.
have a couple Predator shirts. And I also have a Snatch shirt.
Guy Ritchie.
The Guy Ritchie. It's got it's like Brad Pitt in the boxing ring, and
Yeah.
then Jason Statham and the other guy standing on either side of him. It's pretty cool.
Amazing.
That's Hill's like favorite all-time movie. Did you know that? Guy Ritchie Snatch. She's not a big Guy Ritchie fan overall.
By the way, that's blowing my mind. And then Jeff Luce. Hi, Jeff. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff.
You have 4 Orphan Black theme tattoos. Jeff, how do we not know this about you? And you just got suddenly hotter, and that was hard to believe. Yes, Jeff Luce and Orphan Black. Goodness. Holy. Yeah. Maybe you'll tell us if you can reveal what they are. You can, yeah. That's awesome, Jeff. I so love that about you. Also, Jimmy Radassa, they need to make Friday the 13th Part 13. It's right there for the taking.
I know.
It's the dumbest franchise ever when they end at 12 and 13 is your title since 19.
But they're making a TV series, I guess.
But they've already fired the great Brian Fuller, who was literally.
But they replaced him with somebody else, so it's going ahead again.
Going ahead with somebody else, but this is one of those things where, and again, not to be, and we're going to bring John up because he can relate, because he and I started off in development in the same way, in the same era, as it were. When people are like, yeah, I don't know, it's really hard to break like the Friday the 13th film series. I'm like, is it? Because there's like this camp, and then like these guys were having sex and they let this special boy drown, and then the mom gets a little upset and then comes back, and it's a thing. It's a
slasher porno. It's about the kills. That's all it's about. It's not that hard. It's not.
By the way, and I think John, I think Succubus Anderson will embrace me for this tonight. But Twitch of the Death Nerve is the Bava film that, Sean Cunningham was like, what we could do? Several kills are similar. Giallo turning into this. And the thing that's great, I think, about Friday the 13th is, and this is the genius of, which is why we love horror on this show, right? Friday the 13th is absolutely an answer to the very independent John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, Halloween of 1978. We're like, dude, let's get a holiday and like slash up some kids and shit, right? That's the thing. But like the difference was that Carpenter did it independently. Frank Mancuso Jr. was like, Daddy's running kind of Paramount right now. And if I can get a theatrical release from a studio, I can mainline what Carpenter discovered with Halloween, if we're being honest, was originally called The Babysitter Killers, because everyone's either been a babysitter or had a babysitter, and shit happens. And so whatever, put a holiday on it because we play trick or treat effects. Mancuso Jr. was like, you know what? Let's do Halloween, but with a Paramount release so they could get it into more theaters back in the day. And it just worked. It independent of being a reaction to Halloween, I think much like the film we're going to talk about tonight is very much a reaction to The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby. Avi, we'll get into it when we bring John up. But that's okay because like the Greeks told us there are 7 plots. So only 7 plots, do your variation, maybe 15%, and whatever works before, what is your voice? And Sean Cunningham obviously was on to something. We're still doing it.
It's important to note, too, that the Friday the 13th franchise saved Paramount financially.
Yes, it did.
It saved Paramount from ruin, and then they later disowned it as garbage. And it's like,
you know what? Ridiculous, because it made a lot of money, and frankly, it gave us Kevin Bacon. It introduced people. I mean, Adrian King is still out there. You can go. By the way, if you are a fan of Friday the 13th, the actual location is a real camp in New Jersey, and every year during the summer they have Adrian King, the final girl who's like in the canoe at the end, when she's there, she's for you, she's amazing. If you like Friday the 13th, go, for God's sake. Celebrate. Those
and if you're more a Texas Chainsaw person, the Texas Chainsaw House is a bed and breakfast now.
Right, which is like, okay, I'm into that. That's fun because nothing is more appetizing than like meat chili.
Let's bring John on so we can talk about this movie where Beverly D'Angelo masturbates over her pants.
By the way, Beverly D'Angelo makes her screen debut playing a much too young, perhaps, or let's just say age inappropriate lesbian to the great Sylvia Miles. See her in Midnight Cowboy or don't, but she was up for Best Supporting Actress. We're going to talk about this, but let's remind people of how awesome John Hilary Shepherd is. He's a producer. He's a writer. He's also worked in development for many years. So he and I met like in that context. He's worked on projects that are really Tony and not, to his credit. He admits both. I mean, little films that you guys have probably seen, like Black Swan, Hacksaw Ridge, Ron Howard's Rush.
I like that movie. That's a good movie.
It's very fucking good.
I feel like that movie doesn't get talked about enough.
It doesn't, because no one wants to give Opie respect still. But also,
I think people thought it was like Days of Thunder again or something, but it's not. It's way more complex and
Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, has a lead character named Cole Trickle. I'm like,
yeah. Or what was the Stallone? Wasn't there a Stallone race car movie too?
I don't know.
I think everybody thought
Death Race 2000, Roger Corman. Stallone.
No, not that. No, there was another one. But whatever it was, all I'm saying is I think people thought Rush, because they made it look like, a car racing movie.
Yeah.
Like a standard one in the marketing.
Rush,
I think that was a mistake.
Rush, as opposed to Days of Thunder, made sense. Days of Thunder is amazing because I remember it was a very specific year where the big studio summer films, it was Dick Tracy versus Days of Thunder, and Jeffrey Katzenberg was basically running ads back when we had Variety printed out saying, my dick will be bigger than your thunder. And you're like, wow, you guys are apparently sophomoric and amazing. I'm just going to say, if you have a male lead played by Tom Cruise, and his name is Cole Trickle, that seems more like you need a blue pill. I'm just putting that out there. But anyway, let's finish bringing John up. I also this is really important. John was a co-executive producer on the Oscar-winning film 1917, which frankly I would have voted for that year as the best freaking picture. Yes, it's one shot, not really. We get it. Hitchcock did it with Rope. Get over yourself. But it's fucking phenomenal. And if you're talking about endless war and the chaos of war, it's pure cinema. It's brilliantly done. It's an amazing film. What the other thing I really love, I love so many things about John, but what he will tell you is that he passed on Austin Powers because he was all in for a Bulletproof Monk, which if you haven't seen, you should, but he thought Bulletproof Monk would be the hit. And he was like, Austin Powers, it probably wasn't smart enough, because if some of us remember when Woody Allen played James Bond in Casino Royale, the first one, not the Daniel Craig movie, and it was actually pretty funny. And anything that Austin Powers did was done better in that film that no one watches anymore because we have no film history. But without further ado, I want to bring up John Hilary Shepherd. Oh, by the way, he didn't say to say this, but I'm going to say it for you, John. You also wrote on Nurse Jackie, which is one of my favorite TV shows.
I did.
So I want to props for that situation.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Can I just say, for my reputation's sake, everybody passed on Austin Powers.
I did too.
It ended up being financed by some strange little Japanese electronics company. So I was not the only one.
Yes.
That's when I worked for Aaron Spelling.
Oh. You're so fancy, John. Thanks for slumming with us tonight. Appreciate.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to share the Sentinel.
I'm so happy you shared the Sentinel.
This movie was very formative.
Well, that's what I want to get into, because you have an amazing. Well, you have amazing stories always because you're a great writer, but you grew up in a foreign land under different educational
lands.
Talk to us a little bit about how you grew up, where you grew up, and when you first saw the Sentinel in your life and how it impacted.
Great story.
Yeah.
First of all, also, I have to chastise Todd. Beverly D'Angelo is not wearing pants. She wears a leotard throughout the movie.
Oh, right,
And tights. There were 2 layers to get through, unless she was also wearing panties, and that would be 3. So,
yeah.
Okay. My backstory. I was born in a very small town Mount Airy, North Carolina. Mount Airy is the birthplace of Andy Griffith and the inspiration for Mayberry RFD. So I was born in Mayberry. They still have celebrations every year.
Incredible.
But my dad worked for Wrangler Blue Jeans, and they moved him to the island of Malta in the early 70s when I was 4 years old, to take over a big plant that Wrangler had a lot of plants all over the world. And they were the original outsourcers. So we lived in Malta for a few years, and then we lived in Galway, Ireland for a year. And then in 77, we moved to Belgium, to Brussels. And before our house was ready, or while they were still looking for one or whatever, we were living in the Brussels Sheraton downtown. And I realized this was the first, well, it may not have been the first experience I'd had with a cable box. But so at 77, there was a cable box with the TV in the hotel room. And I figured out while turning channels that if you hovered the channel dial between the 10 and the 11, you could get the pay per
without the wiggly
movies for free. No, they were not squiggly. No, it was perfectly fine. And
God.
the new movie that was showing that week we stayed there was the Sentinel. So I watched it half a dozen times. It had to be times when my mother was not in the room. I was 10 years old, and yes, early on, the scene with Beverly D'Angelo, it confused me. It enraptured me. I don't know what it did to me, but I
don't want to trigger
that age. I was like, they can't.
I don't want to trigger childhood trauma, but this is what you're talking about.
It's like the way she's smiling, sort of, and giggling while staring unblinkingly is
Christina Rains. So
I think it's brilliant comedic performance. I know it's supposed to be disturbing,
but also, John, you're going to back me up on this, I think. But one of the things that I appreciated watching this now, older in life, this particular shot, the way it's framed, because Michael Winner was the age he was, this is Beverly D'Angelo doing Theta Bara. The screen siren, right? The first screen vamp, Theta Bara. Theta Bara, for those who weren't alive in the 20s, we are whatever. We're here to educate. Theta Bara was the first screen vamp in Hollywood. She was like from Kansas or some middle American small place. But they created this because back in the day, Hollywood used to be interesting, and they created these fake biographies for these actresses. And so Theta Bara, which is inappropriate and should be canceled today, I guess, because everything interesting is canceled. Theta Bara is an anagram for Arab death. Awkward. And so Hollywood Studios created this persona for her as the vamp who seduces men. She's to play off of what Todd's doing tonight, the succubus, if you will, as the first screen siren of vampism. And what's interesting about that is that Theta, she did the classic silent film Cleopatra before Claudette Colbert did it, but it doesn't exist in its entirety. But the scenes that do exist that you can see Theta Bara is amazing. But I'm just here to say, you guys can Google this and believe me later. This is a famous shot of Theta Bara as Cleopatra. You can see the film stills, but it's a little down south, as it were. So Beverly D'Angelo is making her screen appearance. For us Gen Xers, we're like, yeah, holiday row, right? It was vacation. But she starts off as a young gal in this, but she's being asked, I am going to go to my grave, by Michael Winner going, do Theta Bara, because she's vamping, because we're doing cliche lesbian shit now where she's with the too old for her at the time, wonderful Sylvia Myers. And so it's like, this is all happening at the same time. But you're like, why?
Actually reminds me of two of my acting teachers at NYU.
Amazing.
Exactly the same couple. I think
it's Megyn Kelly talking to Sarah Palin, but we all see what we want to see.
Yeah, it really is an awkward scene. I'm not gonna say it's what made me gay, but it certainly had a hand in it. It may have had a hand. And there, I mean,
I saw it when I was too young. Maybe now it all makes sense. I don't know.
That scene really plays into kind of the weird dichotomy that this movie has. That she's in the scene with Sylvia Miles.
John, I hate to interrupt you, but we have a great question from the great Jimmy Radasta. Did you ever visit the Popeye Village in Malta?
Only in June of this year. Hello.
You did in June of this year? There you go.
I did. Okay. So I last was in Malta in 1981 before we moved back to the States. We moved from Malta in 76.
Okay.
And then I was there in 81 and saw the Popeye Village when they were filming, when they had just put it up and were filming.
Oh my God.
It's been there this entire time, 40 years. It was just a balsa wood set, but they've, propped it up and stuff. And it's now a little amusement park kind of a thing. So yes, I should have sent you a photo, but I was there in June of this year. I finally got back to Malta.
So I have to ask John, so when you first saw the Sentinel, obviously maybe a little too young, did it scare you? Did it amuse you? Did it titillate you? What was your response to the freaking Sentinel in 77 or whenever you saw
all of the above?
Okay.
It did scare me. The first appearance of her father, the ghostly appearance of the father was very
not the orgy flashback. You mean the ghost thing?
Well, the orgy flashback was traumatic too, but I mean, it's not really is it an orgy? It's just
a threesome, I guess.
It's a threesome.
A threesome with cake.
What's the number to constitute an orgy?
I would say 4.
It has to be at least 4.
So not a throuple, 4. Okay, that's good. See, we are establishing rules.
He could have invited
one more lady in there. He
could have invited his daughter Christina in. Instead, her very natural reaction to seeing her father in bed with 2 women is to race to the bathroom, grab a razor blade, and slash her wrists.
I mean, these are
with no consideration.
But also, what's crazy about this, I want to highlight for those of us watching this, there's a cake with like a cherub candle on fire and melting. 2 ladies who actually have real bodies and are kind of gorgeous, scissoring, I think, with one of them at least, an old freaking guy. Yeah, you're like that. So that was in a Universal film in 1977.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. This was a big, this was
huge.
Big studio. It was initially going to be Don Siegel directing, who'd done a lot of stuff for Universal.
Dirty Harry.
It was
Body Snatchers. The first
Variety reported that John Williams was going to do the score. He didn't. Right. He only backed out to do Star Wars and Close Encounters and Superman.
Oh, is that all? Those 2? Okay.
Can you imagine though if he also had the Sentinel on his resume?
By the way,
that would be cool.
His Sentinel would have been dirty. And I also, while you're talking John Williams, I'm going to go to my grave because I'm this old. I think the Gary Oldman, the sexiest Dracula I've ever seen on screen. Yes, Bella for the AIDS. The sexiest Dracula, Frank Langella. And the best score that's not a Spielberg's John Williams thing, in my opinion, what he does for John Badham in 1979's Dracula. I still have my vinyl and I listen to that shit when I write. It is evocative. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I actually think it's a better score than the famous ones he does for Spielberg.
Yeah.
We're talking about 77, 78, 79. Like there is a golden era of Williams, just right.
Well, 77, as you said before, is a very special year. Obviously, people think of it as, the somewhat the birth of the blockbuster with Star Wars and Close Encounters and stuff like that.
You don't remember Billy Jack.
Well, that's the thing. And there are other great movies that I'm not a big fan, but people love Annie Hall. And if you're a film nerd, there's Buñuel's Obscure Object of Desire, Dario Argento's Suspiria. There are a lot of great movies. But then there are the bad movies in 77, including The Sentinel. Obviously, you guys did Airport 75. There's the classic Airport 77. With Lee Grant, eating all the scenery.
Oh my God, Lee Grant having an affair with Robert Wagner as she's supposed to be married with Christopher Lee. She goes into the cocktail lounge on the top store of the 876 plane. and there's a blind piano player. He says, "You've never looked so beautiful." I'm like, "You're blind and you're saying this line."
That's the one where they're underwater with.
It's Poseidon
is underwater
airplane, and it's fabulous.
With Olivia de Havilland.
I know a guy. What a
last movie to go out on.
Oh my God, totally. Fantastic.
But no, there's great. So there are other movies. Audrey Rose, if you know it.
Yes.
Audrey,
I love that.
Rose. Audrey Rose.
Audrey Rose.
Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
The Heretic, which we've done on the show, and we freaking love Stephen Peros for bringing it. Yeah.
ABBA the movie. Orca. The Jaws ripped off.
The killer whale.
Harris. Okay, but John, you point out a good thing. So Richard Harris and Orca, right, is a response to Jaws. The Sentinel is a response to Exorcist and Rosemary Baby. Oh, they're already doing this.
And The Omen too, a little bit.
And The Omen, totally. The Omen is
all the Italian Catholic stuff. Yep, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
The Catholics, what's going on? I said this before in the green room. I want to see a Presbyterian horror film. I don't know what's going on. Here's the great Jose Ferrer as a cardinal.
Oscar winner.
Mm-hmm. Also, the screen's best Cyrano de Bergerac, Fight Me. Sorry, Steve Martin, Fight Me.
He looks a lot like his kid. I didn't even realize that when I was a kid. But yeah. Well,
the other 77 movie you guys should do if you haven't already done it is the great Julie Christie movie Demon Seed.
I love
raped by a computer.
That's another one of my wife's absolute favorite movies.
From the cult director.
By the way,
Demon Seed director Donald Cammell.
Demon Seed in the era of Elon Musk will probably be remade, so we're good.
Probably.
We're fine.
Probably.
All by AI.
All by AI, and we're not paying anybody to work because #what?
Another Oscar winner, Arthur Kennedy. There are 12 Oscar nominees / winners in this movie.
I love that you.
Some didn't become a nominee till later.
I love.
And one, Jeff Goldblum, is only a nominee because he directed a nominated short. He's not nominated.
And this is a grievance I have, and I think you gents will support me in my outrage. Jeff Goldblum in 1986 should have been nominated for Best Actor for Cronenberg's The Fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm super offended that he wasn't, and I'm going to go to my grave.
But they didn't nominate. I mean, if you want to go back in horror history, Dee Wallace should have gotten a nomination and a win for Cujo.
But I will say in
1986, The Howling, you could also give it to her for The Howling.
I would give it to her for The Howling, but I would also say in 1986, something very special happened in that my girl, Sigourney Weaver, got nominated for Best Actress for a sequel sci-fi film called Aliens. You guys have probably seen it. But like what should have happened, and Fox produced both films, Goldblum should have been up for Best Actor for The Fly, and Sigourney should have been up, as she was, for Aliens. I'm not here to say that Marlene Matlin, who is deaf in real life, who was sleeping with William Hurt in real life, winning an Oscar for playing someone who's deaf sleeping with William Hurt in Children of Lesser God, gave a lesser performance than Aliens. But which film are we still talking about? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
You've got a grudge. It's clear.
I got a grudge, and not in a Sarah Michelle Gellar remake way. See what I did there? I just don't appreciate. I think Sigourney's performance in Aliens is the thing, and I don't want to scare anybody, but like in 1986, we had Kathleen Turner and Peggy Sue Got Married, who was destroyed by Nicolas Cage understanding the assignment, so he screwed that film. We had Sissy Spacek in Crimes from the Heart. We love Sissy, not her best work.
No.
We have Jane Fonda, who basically is doing it was the morning after. I just woke up with a dead guy. Okay, she loses. And then Marley wins.
Her hair gives a better performance in that movie than
that's fair. I think that's fair. And then there's Sigourney and Aliens. I'm just saying it. I think we got it wrong. Academy. Anyway, that's my own grievance. So going back to the Sentinel. So John. For folks, by the way, this is like how freaking Isadora Mars is our lead in this film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, she was a real model, even with that overbite, bless her heart. But oh
my God, and by the way, to be fair, just I want to give context because John's going to break it down because John has brought the research. But our female lead, who's very Isadora Mars, she was a model, and then she had a really good career. And then later in life, she's like timing out, and then she became a nurse who specialized in helping people who had kidney dialysis problems. And I'm like,
now I feel bad.
Girl, like, so she went from like model, she was a Ford model, which used to mean something, the car people, Ford model, and then an actress, and she had a really great affair with Keith Carradine, and she was not in Nashville, and then she became a nurse and like saved people's lives. So I what I like about put up that the still again, where the beautiful light, she is giving off such like Kate Jackson, Charlie's Angels, which was going concurrently, looks in this movie. This is very stylized, but most of the shots of her in this film, she's got Kate Jackson's haircut from she's goth again. Theta Bara, dude, she did this already.
Like she looks better in the movie with that glamour shot. Does not do her justice. She looks way better. Just
I agree. She's absolutely gorgeous.
The modeling in the beginning of this movie is fucking hilarious. It's
I also
very 70s modeling.
I also want to put this out to people watching or listening abroad.
Giving mahogany.
Yes. I don't know why this podcast has not done the Isadora Mars. And maybe, John, you want to be that person to bring it back to us. Any slasher film that has Barbara Streisand because she's sleeping with John Peters, pretending to be a producer because he just transitioned from being her hairdresser. And you get Faye Dunaway's her follow-up to Network's Oscar-winning performance in The Eyes of Laura Mars. We should be doing that on this show because I freaking love the movie so hard. But anyway, we're here to talk about The Sentinel. For people who haven't seen it, John, can you try to walk us through what the hell happens?
Oh my goodness!
Movie? What's the story? Like we open up in Rome. We've got Jose Ferrer going, dude. There's a thing, and
there is danger.
You're in danger. Like, talk to us. What is the plot?
Well, Christina Rain's a model. Is dating Chris Sarandon, another Oscar nominee. And they're both looking for apartments to live together, and their budget is $1,000 a month.
It's
somehow Chris Sarandon has an apartment that overlooks Central Park.
This photo is hilarious. That photo is hilarious.
Christina hooks up with realtor Ava Gardner.
Ava Gardner.
It says things like,
can we just talk about, you guys,
the hats, the polka dots,
an ascot and a hat that matches. Hi. This is the woman who broke Frank Sinatra so bad he pretended Mia Farrow was interesting.
She's younger than I am there. I'm just going to point that out. She's younger than Nicole Kidman.
You have great skin, my friend.
Anyone wearing something like that and talking the way she does in this movie I would immediately turn around and walk away. There's no way I would follow her into a building. That's crazy.
I would follow her into a burning building.
Thank you, John.
Peggy Farrell did the costumes. She was a huge costume designer. This movie had like a lot of really great. Terry Rawlings edited it. He did Alien. It had
2001: A Space Odyssey. This guy, come on.
This had A-list people. This was and again, like 12 Oscar nominees. It's like one of them being Ava Gardner. I love that Ava.
I'm just saying she's creepy. She's supposed to be creepy, right?
Well, ultimately, yes. I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I know. You know what she is? I don't think she's creepy. I'm gonna stand up for my girl, Ava.
I don't think she's creepy, but she's supposed to be.
No, I don't think so. I think she's an enabler. I think she's the Martin Taylor Greene of film. I think she's not very smart and she's dumb and she's being led into let's enable the evil, which is the polka dot situation. And I just feel like she prefigured. She's also so glamorous, and just seeing Ava Gardner makes me happy because I feel like I worry people our age don't know how great Ava Gardner is. And so I just want to lift her up. Guys, Google her.
I wasn't suggesting that I found her, Ava Gardner, the person, offensive. I was saying I think she's creepy in this movie, which I think she's supposed to be.
Well, let's talk about that, because John, as a writer, again, if this film is a reaction,
I'm assuming she is making that Catholic coin. You know, she's taken her 30 pieces of silver to be the representative of this Rosemary's Baby-ish building.
But here's the thing. I think we need to, let's put an asterisk on this, because John, as a writer, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I think this is something you and I, and Todd too, because we all love the genre. There's something about Ava Gardner in this role, I think purposely cast. Burgess Meredith comes in later in a very important role, which we'll get to in your summary. But this film is absolutely a rejoinder to Rosemary's Baby, where old people living in your building are scary. Today, I feel like old people are not welcome in horror films. And there's something about age and seeing things and wisdom, and the perversion of seeing things, age and wisdom, that this film like loads up. And there's this underlying current, because we're going to go into history, because it's Catholic, so there's always the Catholics with history. They're like, you know what didn't work? The Crusade. So we got the Children's Crusade. You know what didn't work? The Children, or Inquisition, right? So their Catholics are always kind of grinding down. But there's something about, like, we would not do this. This is not in Terrifier 3. Okay, older people creepy, because foundationally, from a story standpoint, I mean, you're the writer, but like, we're supposed to respect our elders. We should, whatever. But the elders here are doing things that are not good with our young Kate Jackson proxy. And I think there's a foundational unease for those of us who grew up with, like, wait, but we're supposed to value our elders. And I think that's part of the horror that the Sentinel sells, the way Ruth Gordon and all the people, he has his father's eyes, right at the end of Rosemary's Baby. It works. And I think let's talk about that, because we don't do that in horror films anymore. We have multiple generations and horror.
Well, I don't think it's the creatives who are getting away from, older characters, but, the marketing side of it. Because what I would say, in all seriousness, for this podcast, for one thing the Sentinel does really well, which is a big part of horror, is it really hits on a lot of those primal fears. The bit with we saw the dad in bed with the two women and the cake, but when we later see him as a ghost, I mean, it is really traumatic and frightening.
And
there's a lot about aging that is really traumatic and frightening. So I think that, there's definitely, something there, not to get too highfalutin.
No, you're not highfalutin, but I think you're right. And I want to celebrate for the people who are watching this, for put themselves up, for people listening. Like, there's, again, you've got the skinny hot girl in a slip, because don't we all wear those? With a knife, of course. But the lighting on this, where the creepy guy comes out of this of the background, and we realize, to John's point, this is the ghostly vestige of her father, who, to me, with this makeup, looks a little bit like meter shit if we're a Stephen King Creepshow fan.
Dick Smith.
But they do a close up, because they're trying to get into a new thing where she cuts through his eyeball. And you're just like, this is like, it's a thing. But like, let's go to
and she cut his nose off. That was Dick Smith, by the way, doing the makeup. Another
Dick Smith, who we need to give major props to, who did Barnabas Collins on Dark Shadows, and then all the other things. He's amazing. But what I think is awesome, and John, I'm going to lean into your writer's standpoint here. So talk to us about the backstory of our female lead, who was a young girl who saw her father doing this and then is traumatized. And how does in a 1977 film, after all Ellen Burstyn and Jill Clayburgh feminist films that did well, how do they try to merge? So your dad was a dirty cheater, this and that. The whole point of the opening of this is I want to have my own apartment before I married Chris Sarandon.
Right.
I'm a single lady in 1977. How do I do that? There's a lot of
well, they do give us some, backstory and subtext, I guess, into. I'm not sure it's perfectly executed. If she had, this traumatic upraising by her father, she seems genuinely upset when he's dead. So there's a little bit of a mix of emotions there, maybe. But yes, they do. I think there is a kind of a key scene where she sits down with her mother after the death of her father, and she says, "Why'd you stay with him all that time?" And mom says, "I had nowhere else to." Even though they're in a fantastic house with a butler, so there's money.
Yeah.
Mom says, "Well, I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere else to go." Which, yes, I can absolutely see. Coming out of that, woman would have been married in the 50s, or even earlier.
But to John's point, what I just want to highlight, because we were talking about how there's old Hollywood crossover with new Hollywood. This is 1977.
Yep.
Single women couldn't get their own credit cards or rent their own apartments, right? Until
you can now?
73. We almost. It's going to be taken away soon, but yeah. So thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who did that before she was on the Supreme Court. But in 1977 audiences, so we want to contextualize this for our viewers and watchers, like women have only been able to rent apartments for a couple years. Like we're talking less than 5 years when the Sentinel comes out. So what seems, I would say, 3 scenes too many setting that up would have been progressive for 1977 audiences, reminding people, yeah, girls couldn't have their own apartment without their fathers or their significant others renting for them. And so here you have a Kate Jackson, Charlie's Angels proxy as a lead saying, I just want to get my own apartment, Chris Sarandon. Oh, by the way, Chris Sarandon, your backstory is you're a lawyer who might be a little sleazy, Jared Kushner's dad, who is problematic. And I just need to have my own space before I marry you. And it would have been seen for a 1977 audience as very feminist and very progressive for the hot girl to say, I'm going to have my own apartment. Right. But there's also, depending on who you are, your read, the hot girl who buys her own apartment gets sucked into the Catholic group who owns the building that this film happens in.
Yeah.
Because it's part of a greater plot that you're going to talk about as a writer. But if you're a 1977 audience and you're like 4 years out from being able as a woman to rent your own apartment, much less get a credit card, this seems progressive. I would argue, I don't know that it's progressive. And the way she's written, I don't know that that's progressive, but it's 1977. So I'm not going through my modern lens, but that would be a reason enough for modern audiences who don't know the Sentinel to perhaps to watch it. So talk us through the character beats that lead our female lead to do this, because I think that's why this film actually, in a soon-to-be Trump 2.0 Nazi era, might be more relevant because we're trying to regress. And this film is at the cross-section of old Hollywood, new Hollywood, feminism, and not. And that's our character.
Yeah, I mean, when she's questioned by Chris Sarandon, the boyfriend, about why do you need she does echo the mother and say, well, I want somewhere to go. I don't want to have nowhere to go. Wow. And I definitely get that, I think, again, maybe not perfectly executed. It's maybe a little convenient, the whole suicide attempt, brought on by the father's cake eating. But at least, I mean, there is an attempt for some, this is like, there she is. She's having one of her headaches.
Because as she
magically go away by the end.
Yeah, she gets closer to like Jeff Goldblum. Here he is as a pseudo extra, as a photographer. The Kate Jackson proxy. In 1977, if you were watching Charlie's Angels, the Kate Jackson was shorthand for the smart brunette who solves problems. That's
Well, I think if you're looking at like feminism and progressiveness, etc. Does it maybe undercut itself by making her a glamorous model? You know, could she maybe?
But that's a great question, because I think this is part of what Hollywood gets wrong a lot. I've been a part of some of the solution and others that are probably part of the problem in my career, as I know you have. You can be sexy and smart and great, but it's this question. And I think in 1977, we're on the crossroads of a conversation that I love that you brought, the Sentinel, because I think we're back there. And so I think this film becomes more relevant because of that context. But the truth is that she's physically, thank you, Ryan Thompson, like Ryan, like she like literally is trying to come to terms with, we don't have the ERA still, much less then, but we were trying. And so she's trying to come to terms with, like, how do I survive? The instinct is, if I'm on my own, I have my own place, I'll figure out if I want to be with you. But I think there's a thing, and I wanted to ask, because John, you're such a good writer, the backstory with the Sarandon character. He's a little skeezy lawyer, and he may or may not, like, his former wife jumped off a bridge, killed herself, suicide. Did he do it? Did he not do it? So you've got Eli Wallach, the great Eli Wallach, going, I think this guy was guilty for this. So you have men chasing men. You have a woman who's like, I think I need my own thing. Feels very current. What do you think? Is that?
I did not look at it through a political lens, perhaps as much as you did, other than with Eli Wallach and Martin Balsam and Burgess Meredith and Arthur Kennedy and Jose Ferrer and Ava Gardner. I mean, that is the biggest set of has-beens. That's the biggest set of has-beens until Trump's cabinet. So that's maybe the biggest political time I can.
I would argue has-beens who never were beens.
Well, exactly.
Yes.
But she's completely a target, you know, of the church in this. And you know, they do establish her as a Catholic herself. It's brought up several times. You know, so I definitely can see that element that maybe didn't jump out at me, you know, when I was, well, it certainly didn't when I was 10 years old.
No, but also let's talk, and I want to bring Todd into this, because I feel like I really want the two men on this show to talk about this, because I feel like into the backstory of what makes her character a character. He's her father. He dies. She's in the room. And then we do this uncomfortable flashback as the aforementioned threesome with a weird candle, whatever.
Are those pills by the cake? What is that?
I don't know. It looks like candy corn, but who am I to judge? But like, this thing happens, and as a young girl, she walks in, and then she immediately runs in.
Yeah, so much in this movie had already confused me by the time we got to this point, which is supposed to be explaining her weirdness. But I was also like, it's such a weird reaction. Your dad is having a threesome with cake, and your reaction is to go and slit your wrist the wrong way. Yeah. And I don't understand. Like, this was supposed to explain a lot more backstory than there was, I think. And I'm kind of feeling like dad molested her as a child. So this is why she was killing herself, because he was cheating on her, essentially.
Well, it's hard to hear. There's some stuff when she comes in and sees him that he's screaming at her and rips the cross off her neck, that it's giving the impression that there's a lot more to the story between the two of them.
But I also, as the token chick on the program, watching it through 2024 lens again, even though I grew up watching it because inappropriate theater, you know, latchkey only child with access to HBO. What's interesting, and this is a very Catholic thing, because as we talked about in the pregame, Catholics are, you're a Madonna or you're a whore, and the truth is most of us are neither. But that's the binary.
Except Madonna is a whore, but
well, it depends on what a single you're listening.
I worked with Madonna, and I have no argument.
She sat on his lap, Will and Grace. Look it up, yo. But what is interesting about this, because I hadn't seen this film for a handful of years. It's been a minute, but I grew up with it, and I felt like I knew it, like a Clueless. I'm like, okay, but I don't know what the point of view is of the white guy who wrote the best-selling novel or directed this or wrote it or whatever. But it's like the backdrop, which we're going to get into very quickly because we want to wrap through the synopsis, is there's a woman who grew up and saw that her mother was cheated on by her husband. This is one of many offenses, I'm sure. It just didn't happen once. That's usually how it works. And she's like, I just want to have my own space before I commit to marrying this man who also has a back history of a wife who died under mysterious circumstances, and they seem to want to say maybe he was a bad cop, maybe, or a bad lawyer or a good lawyer, but we don't know why the wife died. And so it makes total sense for me as a woman watching this through modern lenses. Of course, you want to have your own apartment before you marry this person. And they never connect the strands as a writer, which you would have done on Nurse Jackie, with our female lead going, let's talk about what happened with your mother. And so she's trying to be like, maybe I'll have my own place. So the reason she's in this place and the Catholics suck her in is I want to have my own place before I marry this guy I think I'm going to be with, even though his wife committed suicide off a bridge. And then there's a muddying up of narrative about maybe he killed her, maybe he didn't, because Eli Wallach says maybe so. And then Christopher Walken says maybe yes. So there's this red herring. But if I'm a feminist in 1977 watching this, I think I want her to have her own place. And the fact that she gets into this thing by a woman, I don't want to say, Jeffrey Epstein's girl who lured people in, but that's who Ava Gardner's playing for a modern audience. I abuse this woman and I put her in a situation because there's a dastardly plot. So in 30 seconds, John, tell us what the plot is with the Catholics own this building. No one else may or may not be in it. When Ava's like, no, girl, move in. This is happening. And then you're like, okay, she's trying to do her work, and then all of a sudden Burgess Meredith shows up with a cat named Jezebel. That should be a clue that's not a good thing. And she seems to like it. And then she goes down, she sees the lesbians, because apparently lesbians are in hell. Okay, that's fun. That's very Trump forward. We have the Theta Bara picture. She's starting to have more and more headaches. She passes out. Jerry Aubuck shows up. That's him. It's like very, early Dick Wolf, but not. And we have some glam shots in New York. Look at the vista. It's all good. And then R.K. Jackson Proxy, who's not made up, and this is how she looks for most of the movie, is sucked into Burgess Meredith's situation. And then you see the cat. This is my favorite thing ever. There's a birthday party for a cat. And then you're like, oh, this looks crazy. Look at these people that a young Kate Jackson Proxy would never hang or party with. And then she has a nightmare. And we quickly see that inappropriate theater, sorry, boobs for people watching, happens. And then shit gets real in her own apartment, where we trust 1977 audiences to be like, wait, why is the chandelier in her bedroom doing this nonsense? And then she's like, girl, Ava Gardner, you got me here. Polka dots. Again. But I was here and there were crazy things happening. Isn't this the apartment where this happened? And this is what the film posits. So once again, do we believe women? Is she an honest narrator? That seems to be the narrative that we're going for. Shit gets real. She sees her dad, and we do, because it's 70s gore. And then we get to the great Eli Wallach looking at this dastardly would-be suitor for our female lead. And then there's a murder where someone loses their face in much the same way that his would-be wife is saying this is happening. Christopher Walken again being very young in the background. And then our lapsed Catholic, is there any other kind, goes to the church and says, hey man, like I have had this experience. And he basically says, I don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, in one of the best, I think, moments of the film, Chris Sarandon, as a lawyer, says, what are you seeing in this scripture? And she sees, right, Latin. I think it's Aramaic, but let's pretend Latin,
she's actually really good in that scene. Actually, I think she has great moments throughout. But yeah, she picks up this book in the other apartment in the building, and says it's just the same thing on every page. And he says, well, it's a completely normal book. And she writes out the Latin words that are over and over, which he then gets translated. And there's some sort of, religious warning, religious ritual.
Right, but only she sees it. But I also think what makes it,
well, it has colors of, obviously gaslighting has been a trendy kind of word, over the last few years. Yeah. And it certainly has a lot of that, and the distrust of women.
But also at the core, it's like believe women, and we don't believe women. He's
right, but then he does.
But Chris Sarandon literally says, you copy what you see, and she has to do it. We have to have a 5-minute scene where the female lead says, this is how I'm reading. It's like, wow, I'm a lawyer, so I know Latin.
Well, I mean, it's a little different in that, like, Chris Sarandon's looking at a normal book and she's seeing something that isn't there. It's
what a cool conceit.
But it's not like he's gaslighting her. He feels like she's gaslighting him. And then he realized, no, she's telling the truth. She's seeing something that I'm not seeing.
He's like, you're full of shit. It's all fine. Whatever.
But what would your reaction be to that if somebody handed you a book and said the same things on every page?
I mean, frankly, you should get an MRI. But
I think John for the win.
There's a brain tumor in the mix. If that's,
I think that's right. And if the mega cult has stolen you, ask for help.
But at least it gets him asking around, right? So he takes up her case as sort of his own.
Does. He's like, help me. And then one of my favorite moments in this film was that they didn't know the great William Hickey, who was
I have a clip of this scene.
Let's play it. Do you want to set it up, Tom? Set it up.
Yeah, it's this is an epic Anderson family reenactment because it's the whole scene bookended by, their talking.
Oh my god, roll tape.
Here it is. Hello, Mr. Curry.
It's been a long time, Mr. Lawyer.
It's all there.
You're taking a high chance.
Let's go. open these two locks. Father Matthew O'Halloran. William O'Rourke? Father Halloran? William O'Rourke disappeared July 12th, 1952 after attempting suicide.
They're the same man. William O'Rourke became a priest named Halloran.
Yes. But why?
I just opened doors.
Wait. Do you hear that? It's a tiny, funny squeaking sound.
You couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant.
It's fair.
Oh my God. By the way, thank you, William Hickey. By the way, if you haven't seen Chrissy's Honor, trust me, believe me later. By the way,
did you catch our little Christmas? I know you don't like it, but the Christmas Vacation reference, yeah.
I freaking love all of this. It's very Catholic, as all horror films apparently are.
It was brilliant.
I mean, God, you guys are
bar bit.
I know. Oh my God. So again, this is I would say if I was in a Dick Wolf TV episode, I'd be like, that was really weak writing, but like that's what happened in the movie. Perfectly captured it. So
so much of them walking around.
So much. By the way, you're like, we're breaking into this thing that you could not break into, and then we're doing the thing. Okay.
This is opening doors. Yeah, it's hilarious.
But then shit gets real. So we're gonna wrap this up very quickly in terms of the narrative, right? So Chris Sarandon shows up back to the apartment, and then we basically have, yes, John Hiller Shepard is right. Like Chris Sarandon is like, okay, so now I'm entering into apparently a hellmouth, way before John.
It's the gate to hell. It's a
gate to hell.
It is one of the gateways to hell. And
again,
the house is populated by dead murderers.
Dead freaking murderers, which we're gonna get to. But also, who's the Sentinel? You've got the great John Carradine. Mm-hmm. John Carradine is like, he's described as the
no
priest.
Makeup on there,
right? No makeup. This is I don't want to say
so natural.
By the way, I don't.
Do you know which movie John Carradine's final performance was in?
Oh, Schindler's List.
Mm-mm.
No,
he was dead before that. No, it was the Ice Pirates.
Oh my God, Robert Urich for the win. Here's the thing, though, and I say this as a child who I don't know, I had a lot of Arrested Development, but when I look at this, I feel like the Sentinel, even though this was a big budget Universal picture back in its day, they're aping Omega Man's people's makeup. This is like Dick Smith is going, I'm gonna go Omega Man on this.
Yeah.
Already.
And we've done Omega Man on this show.
We have access to these makeups.
But I'm just saying this is very Omega Man, and God bless a Carradine for coming into this. And I have to say, as somebody who was really blessed with selling a show to CBS where we needed a president, and Keith Carradine came in as our president, who's amazing. And we love Keith. And I was lucky every day to be on a set with him. And when I talked about Nashville, like he got the Oscar for a song he wrote for Nashville, which again ties into our female Kate Jackson lead, Regina Haynes, right? So because they were in a relationship for 9 years with that. Keith Carradine for the age, but the fact that his dad is doing, I would say, bad Omega Man, because that was 74, but we're doing this like 3 years later.
If you love the Carradine Nepo babies, by the way, might I suggest Walter Hill's The Long Riders?
Long Riders.
I love The Long Riders. I got no hate for that situation. Getting, what were we doing? Getting canceled, calling Madonna horror? Well, I don't know.
Sorry.
Right?
Who did that? Nobody called it Madonna.
I may have slipped a joke in.
No, they did. No, they did, because Madonna. I remember when she was giving birth with Lourdes, like the whole world stopped down, and they're like, Madonna giving birth. I was like, everyone get off that hate bat. You're not wrong. But by the way, I love this. Dominic Shira, Blood Hook is a great film. I appreciate that love. I mean, John, doing your thing, but also, where the hell was the mustache been on my John?
I don't know.
Jeff,
I don't know.
You're awesome, dude. You don't need a mustache. That's how cool you are. But that's a personal aside. But like, so all this stuff is going down, and then we have this moment where Chris Sarandon is looking at a Carradine going, dude, you're in the window. I'm going to kill you. And then there is a reality that, again, Chris Sarandon has probably he's been killed at this point. Now he's holding Jezebel the cat. And then we see him breaking down. And
the fishing wire in that special effect being clear is favorite. It's my favorite part of this movie. Yeah. It would later be perfected in Hellraiser, where you can't see the fishing wire, but such a good...
Todd speaks truth. The fact that we can see the wire in this is fantastic. But there's also a part where our female Kate Jackson proxy lead does this a lot in a movie. So what's interesting, which is why I brought it up earlier, is that women had just, in big cities at least, been able to get a credit card, been able to rent with their dad or their boyfriend or whatever, or signing for them.
It was a good time for women.
There was at least 2 years. It was amazing. So great. But what's great about this is that, like, again, the former model turned pretty girl who's sort of an actress, let's be honest. She does this a lot in the movie. So half her performance is like, and this is Michael Winner directing our female lead.
I think like it's very similar to James Brolin's performance in the Amityville Horror. Like he does that all the time in that movie.
He does, but you know what's great about Amityville? We'll get to that later. Is
I'm coming apart.
Margot Kidder is actually selling that movie, but we'll get to that soon. But like, this is like, again, in 1977, the girl who's trying to be progressive, who's trying to say I can rent my own apartment, who gets swindled by Ava Gardner because it's like Maxine Gladwell, like Jeffrey Epstein girl going, no girl, go into this fucking Catholic disaster zone. Like that happens. And then when the third act happens and Burgess Meredith is like bringing the horror show, because you realize it's the Catholics who own the building. And this is the part where, and I kind of just want to point this out because I have to point this out, John's the writer, but there's something really great about, in 1960, Alfred Hitchcock makes a film called Psycho. And most of America didn't know what the word psycho meant, so it was okay. But if you do know what the word psycho means, there is no surprise in the 1960 film called Psycho because #psycho.
Right.
So there's that. If you are somebody in 1977 who's like, oh no, she's the feminist who's going to have her own apartment because, like, for 3 years, girls can rent their own apartment, even through a sexy fucking model with their own money and don't need men. What?
$400 a month.
When you say Sentinel, most people don't know what Sentinel means. Guys, the title's the clue.
Yeah.
What is Sentinel, right? So let's talk about what this is. John, wrap us up.
I'm not 100% sure who the disfigured are.
The disfigured are somebody who's seen Todd Browning's Freaks from 1933, and they're
and that doesn't really age that well now that we're using in disfigured.
And that was my, actually when I watched this, I was like, How many of these people are actors in makeup, and how many of these people have actual goiters? Do you know the facts?
Dick Smith
Well,
made it work.
Christina Rains is in actual makeup, and the rest, I don't know.
I wonder. I'm like, I
There,
know
there.
some of them seem like super. I don't know, like how you like this guy, like next to the bald lady on the
Yeah.
right there, like
No, he did
how
hire
you how
he
you
hired people
achieve-
from circuses, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a real person. I don't think
Yeah.
those are makeup effects,
No.
because
No,
I
it's-
honestly don't know how you would achieve that
Right.
look with a makeup effect. I don't know how you would do
But
that.
here's the thing, though, and Michael,
Unless it's like a short person and the whole head protruding out of it is completely
but
fake.
but here's the thing. Michael Winter was the age he was, and I would argue this whole film only exists because of The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, etc. Universal said this is our. So here's, if I were doing a romantic comedy version of this podcast, I'd say, oh, in 1990, Pretty Woman, produced by a Disney film, Touchstone. Disney does prostitution, but we have to have a line where you've only been a whore for a week in Hollywood. So then somehow it's okay because only a week you've been a whore. Okay. No judgment, total judgment.
Plus, she doesn't kiss on the lips, so
She doesn't kiss on the lips. She eats strawberries and she has
that's
really good
perfectly
double
fine.
But here's the thing, though, right? So Pretty Woman comes out and it makes a fuck ton of money. God bless, right? 1990. So what does Hollywood do? Hollywood does Mad Dog and Glory. Oh, it's Uma Thurman, who's like kind of a space alien whose eyes are on, sides of her head. And then there's Honeymoon in Vegas with Nick Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker, pre-Carrie Bradshaw. The only difference in the plots of those three films to two films legitimately copying, how much does the woman cost? True story. Fight me later. So that's what we do. Mad Dog and Glory and Honeymoon Boogers are rejoinders to Pretty Woman making all this money. And so the Sentinel is a rejoinder to the films aforementioned, Exorcist, Omen, right? All that. So that's what we're dealing with. So we're watching, but we watch a 1977 Sentinel based on a best-selling novel, activated, right? So it's like we have this moment where it's like, what are we saying? So I don't think it's feminist. I don't think it's not feminist. I think it is. This is, again, the Sentinel is the guardian, which is the shot that Todd just put up, who takes over. So the concept, which I want to talk about, just.
Well, I think what you're saying is that in the context of 1977, they should have had Christina Rains be a prostitute.
Well, that's an interesting. But here's what I would say, though.
That would be more in line with biblical stuff, actually.
Well, with Ava as her pimp.
No, but I'm just saying, because if we're in Catholic world is women are whores or Madonnas, and the truth is none of us are either.
Or they're blind sentinels.
Well, they're sentinels, but the sentinels, again, if you've seen Spartacus, which you should have when 77 came out, you would have known you're standing the guard. But there's this weird backstory, and again, this is very Catholic, from Dante forward. If you have committed suicide, tried to commit suicide, or attempted suicide, fuck you. And I would say, as Catholics who apparently rape, a lot of young boys, complicated, but it was still in the public square where we're like, okay, so what are we saying about this? But the truth is, there's this very weird thing for, again, this is just my, token girl perspective on the film you brought, John. But I was like, so the Kate Jackson proxy is basically like I wanted to kill myself because my dad, who was my hero, betrayed my mom. I walked in on a sexual throuple before it was cool, I guess. Awkward. And so I tried to take my own life because everything I believed in by the church or my father, hashtag no. And then she couldn't kill herself effectively. We won't judge. And so then the film is
the
like
wrong way. She did it the wrong way.
she did it the wrong way. But the film is about my mom who forgave my dad because hashtag Catholic lady said I had nowhere to go. That's why I stayed with him. So she's like, I don't know that I want to get with Chris Sarandon because I see the trauma of my female mother before we had any rights perspective. And so the whole film is like, girl, if you just moved with Chris Sarandon, this shit wouldn't have happened. Hashtag true. And then you'd also, because the film is loaded and complicated, and John, you're the writer, but Chris may or may not have killed his wife previously. We don't know. So there's all this Catholicism thing where the tainted man is good until he's killed. And then he taunts
himself. Yes.
Right. He taunts the wife, the second wife, who's like, I just want to have my own apartment, dude. I've had 3 years where I could legally in America.
He lets her do it, but okay. So we're running long. So let's do final thoughts on this thing, and then we'll do our end segments.
Yeah. So John the Baptist Shepherd, what do you think? What people who haven't seen this Sentinel, do the 20-second pitch why they should or why they shouldn't, but why they should because it's awesome. Final thought.
Yeah, we've already met. That it's a great cast. And they're all at their histrionic best. If you want to see Beverly D'Angelo masturbate, this is where you're going to be able to do it.
Hey, everybody has a kink. Everybody has
my quick connection to Ava Gardner. Who I also love. She's from small town North Carolina, Tarboro, North Carolina. But her accent, she's got that classic Hollywood accent where she says things like, "We need your signature," and "Are you going to live there alone?" But anyway, so my grandmother lived in Tarboro, and Ava this was in the 70s.
Oh my God.
Pre the Sentinel, clearly, because she wouldn't have been able to get out in public after this. She visited a high school right across from my grandmother's and did not want to use the high school bathrooms. So went over and used my nanny's bathroom. And so I've used the same toilet as Ava Gardner. Literally touched ass.
Yeah.
John, I didn't.
In terms of the movie,
I did not wait. I just want to, for the people listening on the podcast, John, you just got a little cooler, and I think that was possible.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
But I think it's a really good example of one of these expected to be an A-list big studio production. Again, that huge cast. Sis Corman, who is Barbara Streisand's partner.
That's right.
Partner. She cast the movie. She then went on to cast Deer Hunter and Raging Bull, and a lot of these people. Christopher Walken then wins an Oscar for Deer Hunter.
And a year later, to be fair, Chris Walken, much like Richard Dreyfuss, like I say, Walken has a couple lines. He's in the Deer Hunter. So you have Chris Walken in the Deer Hunter 6 months, whatever later.
And if he didn't do the Sentinel, if she didn't find him for the Sentinel, he wouldn't have done the Deer Hunter probably.
Absolutely. And by the way, Christopher Walken, amazing. But this film actually helps him pull out of Actors Studio and getting him employed, because you could do that back in the day when someone was freaking talented. And so it's also a ghost of 1977.
Absolutely, and I even tell young writers today, you got to really push the envelope to make a mark. So, and I mean, this movie in some way,
it certainly does.
Yeah.
I totally agree with John's assessment, especially the part about if you want to see Beverly D'Angelo masturbate in dancing gear, look no further. This is your movie. And I don't know.
And that she's in the scene with Sylvia Miles, who, by the way, is coming off 2 Oscar nominations for Midnight Express and the other one, Farewell
Midnight
My
Cowboy.
Lovely.
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy, yeah. And Farewell My Lovely. And has the great, she's playing German, I guess. Her name is Gerda, and she has the great line as Christina Rains runs from the room, and she says, "Rather rude to eat and run." And
I
Christina
know.
says, "I didn't eat, I drank."
I know. But also, she has the line where she's like, "What do you do?" I fondle.
We fondle each other, and
Fondle
then
each
shoves
other.
her
Yeah,
hand down
or
her.
just boom. But also,
Why is that bad though? Why is that representative of hell?
but
They murdered
I
somewhere.
wanna be-
They murdered
I-
her former
but
boyfriend.
As
Todd,
a person, I want to be fondled. I don't know why it's bad to fondle.
but
They call it self-love.
I thank you, Todd, which is why he's my co-captain in Mayhem. In 1977, it was seen as transgressive to have a much older lady with a hot white lady
Yeah, who does what she says.
sexual things as lesbians. So lesbians are put into the cycle of hell. That is empirically the plot of the thing. And
Well, they did murder her former boyfriend, but
Yeah, I mean, there's that.
everyone's a murderer.
those two girls are there to upset our straight cat Jackson.
100%. 100%.
And they're there to be not a great representation of lesbians. By the way, if lesbians were that hot in public, awesome. They're not.
I'd be all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I know most people would be, but like again,
I want public over the dance clothes.
I mean, at least
masturbation
Burgess
and-
Meredith does say about them, to each their own. But
to each their own. But I also feel like, again, we should point out this is a 1977 movie. So the fact that there was any lesbian representation is a huge thing. The fact that it was negative is obvious, but and Harvey Fierstein said in the Cellular Closet, based on Vito Russo's great book and the film that we got made. I was an intern on that, and I was doing
wow.
Closet. Yeah, it was very good. It's important and it's controversial, depending on what era you find yourself. Is no representation better than bad representation? And Firestein says, I like the sissy. And I know people don't like that. And that is Harvey's take on the sissy. And Hollywood has sucked for 100 years plus, but it's complicated. And I would argue, as my summation, because we have to get into the next quickie.
Yeah, we got to do them fast.
We got to do it. I'd rather have some representation, even if it's awkward, versus no representation.
Sure.
And so this film, as straight women should watch it and go, oh my God. Gay women will be like, fuck. Trans people will be like, yeah. And whatever. But 1977, so put it in context and read it into your own. And I think this film is creep as fuck. I love that you brought it to us. I think it's tragic and wonderful and fantastic. And I love Hillary and Todd ruling it. We're going to roll into the next.
It's traumatizing.
Yeah, let's do Be Bad or Be Best. So we'll, Tracy and I will both present titles and ask you, John, if they're so bad, no one should watch them, or they're so bad, it's awesome and everybody should watch them. I'll start. There are a lot of movies named The Sentinel. Here, this is one with Michael Douglas and Kiefer Sutherland and Eva Longoria and Kim Basinger. The Sentinel, it's like a spy thriller. John,
does Kim or Ava masturbate?
They don't.
Nobody masturbates.
I would say do not watch it.
John Baptist.
You know, I went to a screening that Michael Douglas was producing, and this was not even maybe 5 years ago. And Michael Douglas shows up because he produced the movie, and it was our remake of Flatliners. Why? I don't know. I thought it was Kirk. I honestly, what is Kirk Douglas doing here? He looked so old in person.
Oh,
I would watch that.
Well, he drinks
I
a lot.
didn't watch it, and I wouldn't watch it. That's just
drinks
that's
a lot.
flat out bad. That's like pointless bad.
Tracy, how about you? Or be bad or be best on the Sentinel?
I actually, I have a thing. I'm going to did this on the podcast. I was like 27 a long time ago, and I was at the chimney sweep in the valley.
Oh. Yeah, they lost their liquor license. God damn it!
Yes, they're going to have to change the name to come back.
Yeah,
we've been there many, many times.
I used to live not so far away from there, and I'd go to the chimney sweep because girlfriend likes a good dive bar. And I was there, probably, I'm going to be generous, 50 pounds thinner. And I was at the bar. Kiefer Sutherland sat down next to me himself. I was like, okay, what? And we had a really good conversation. He bought me way too many drinks. It was fun. He was nice. He was not inappropriate. I fucking love Kiefer. Like, I was like, dude, you know what's wrong with your character in The Lost Boys? And he was like, no. I'm like, I will tell you. And we were talking story, and he was so nice to me, and he paid for my bill in a time where I wasn't making any money. I love the Kiefer. He wasn't inappropriate. We had a great conversation, and
he's a regular at the chimney sweep, has been for many, many years.
He has.
I've never seen him there. He has, maybe, I have heard, gone overboard there a bit at times.
My experience with him, because I'm a nerd, hashtag, I said, here's what I love about Don't Look Now.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, because I can quote that film because I have a problem. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, I know. And like, I got to talk about Don't Look Now and Lost Boys and Flatliners. And he was really nice, and he picked up my barbell, and we had a lot of drinks, and he was not inappropriate. We just
what you're saying, to boil it down, is all Kiefer Sutherland movies are be bests, and people should watch.
No, I'm not saying that, because I've seen most of his films. But
what about the Sentinel? Is it a be best or a be bad?
Oh, it's be bad, but I'm gonna say it's fun because I had a good time watching it. It's a terrible film, but I had a good time watching it. So it's be best for me because I don't need you to be Citizen Kane. I'm like, that fucking.
Yeah, no, I get it. What's your be bad, be best selection, Tracy?
Okay, my be bad, be best selection, because I was trying to be Catholic and on point. And so, John, as our guest, you answer first. I think some of us maybe read this book too early. Some of us saw the films because hashtag whatever, cable. John.
Yes.
The original, for God's sake, get out the hum.
That's the
horror.
The best?
Yes.
Why?
Anything with Margot Kidder.
Thank you. That's the correct answer.
And I went to AFI, and Stuart Rosenberg was the directing teacher there when I was there. And he told a story about having directed Amityville Horror and getting his first royalty check. And he said, $6,000, and handed it to his wife. And the wife looked at it, and she said, you missed a couple of zeros. It was $600,000. He says he never made that much money on anything leading up to or after in his career.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Todd.
For me, it's a be best just because of James Brolin's line reading when he's freaking out on the chair.
Great hair.
And he says, I'm coming apart. And for an actor to get to speak subtext out loud is I think it's like great writing sometimes, and in this particular case, it's just lovely. I
All it
think
needed was some fishing line to pull a piece of him off.
fishing line
Literally come apart.
if
Speaking of
that
Amityville Horror, and I guess ties into Sentinel, I rewatched Rosemary's Baby a couple of weeks ago. Made the mistake of starting like 1 a.m. And as it's finished, had to go pee pee and went, and it was 3:14 or 3:15, whatever the time is in Amityville Horror, that she wakes up every night because that's when the murders were. And
3:30 would have
you know,
been.
you get these things in your brain, and you wake up, and you're like, oh, that's the Amityville Horror time. Never.
Yeah, I think it's a fun movie. And also, you know, the franchise itself is bizarre. There's all these, because there's no, you know, copyright infringement if you use the word Amityville. So there's like so many like backyard productions with the Amityville title, but then there's also the like studio sanctioned ones, which are like all over the map weird. I would say Amityville 2, The Possession, I think is a scarier movie than the Amityville Horror, but it's also just gross. But and then 3D is ridiculously fun.
Meg Ryan. We've done
Meg Ryan and Tony Roberts. I don't know. Amityville, just if you're a bad movie lover, the whole franchise is worth exploring. And good luck getting through some of those straight to video ones, because Jesus Lord Christ. It's tough. It's tough. All right, Tracy, let's do this thing. When bad films happen to good actors, do you have a title to share?
I mean, I do. And it's a little scary.
Oh, no.
All right.
What is it?
I have this love-hate thing because I legitimately love Nicole Kidman doing her thing because she empowers mostly female producers and directors and whatever. I'm not here to judge anybody's situation because I obviously don't wear makeup and okay. But what I want to talk about, because I don't even know if John has seen this movie because, you know, hashtag whatever. So when bad films happen to bad people, which is the new thing.
Good actors. When bad films happen to good actors is what
the Golden Compass. So the Golden Compass came out in 2007. It's a fantasy adventure film written and directed by Chris Weitz. It's based on the 1995 novel Northern Lights, right, by Philip Pullman. The first installment of Pullman's His Dark Materials, trilogy, which was published in the Golden Compass, blah, 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 blah. Dakota Blue Richards as the female lead, Daniel Craig, Sam Elliott, Ian McKellen, Ava Green. And what's fun is that Daniel Craig with Ava Green gets to do Casino Royale, right, as Vesper Lynn. And then the tragic film we don't remember, which is like the fourth version of Jack Finney's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You have Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig as the leads, where they took away the pods because Joel Silver, let's barf up and throw up in someone's faces, whatever. So you've got Daniel Craig with Nicole Kidman, who bombed out in Body Snatchers. We have them bombing out in this film.
You mean the Invasion?
But that was, again, Jack Finney's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, badly done. So you have Craig and Kidman bombing out in Golden Compass. You have Kidman and, you know, Craig bombing out in Golden Compass. No one remembers these films. It's a huge piece of IP. Warner Brothers paid a lot. I think it's terrible. So I wanted to when
you feel you feel bad for Nicole on this one?
No, the segment we're doing right now is when bad films happen to good casts. I think Nicole Kidman's amazing. I think McKellen's amazing. I think Daniel Craig's amazing. And this film is bad and no one talks about it. That's how bad it is. So that's my entry this week.
It is very bad. I agree. I wound up with a copy of this on DVD.
John, did you see it?
I don't know that I've ever watched it. Doesn't it have some controversy maybe in the UK? In general.
Bad.
I didn't realize Sam Elliott's in it. I love Sam Elliott. I have a poster of Lifeguard on my wall right there.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I love
that was probably a little bit more formative in my growing up years than Beverly D'Angelo. But
Todd, you're
speaking of Beverly D'Angelo, when bad movies happen to good actors, I don't know that even Chevy Chase deserved Vegas Vacation or Randy Quaid, but Beverly D'Angelo certainly did not. What a piece of junk. That's all I have to say about that. It's just junk. It's just junk. And there are like 2 bits in it that are kind of funny, but you see them in movies like from 4 or 5 years before. They just lifted their good bits. It's bad. It's really bad. I still watch it from time to time because, there's not enough vacation movies. I don't know what to tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there for
John.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
I don't know if anyone in this is well, of course they're good actors, but so if I were to give a recommendation on another movie from 1977 that if people have not seen, they should. I took a bunch of people to the New Beverly in 1992 when I was at AFI to see this. They all hated it, but it's 77 was also the year of Andy Warhol's Bad, which he did not direct.
Oh, Morrissey.
Yes, directed, and it stars Carol Baker and Susan Tyrrell, both of whom are absolutely brilliant, and also Perry King, who's gorgeous in it. I think wants to be a John Waters film, but isn't quite. But Carol Baker has, she's a great Oscar-nominated actress. So,
and Susan Tyrrell.
Susan Tyrrell, also another Oscar-nominated.
Whatever the McNichol movie, amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
I love that about you.
Watch that. Andy Warhol's Bad.
Yeah,
do you know my favorite line of Nicole Kidman's?
Which?
In the movie? It's that Ron Howard. What's it called? The Ron Howard one she did with Tom.
Oh, Far and Away.
It's when they're having an argument and she looks at him and she goes, "Scrapper." That's
Scrapper.
Scrapper.
Amazing.
Let's wrap up on a positive note with the boost. Tracy and I are going to throw out titles of movies that we've seen that maybe you haven't or maybe you've forgotten about. I'll go first. I'm not a guy who's normally into folk horror, not into The Wicker Man. I will watch the Nick Cage one because it's so stupid, but the original one with the Equalizer guy, it kind of bores me. And Midsommar, I wasn't into. The Witch, I wasn't into. I'm not into folk horror. In general, I'm not into folk horror. However,
Valley Guy.
I watched this random movie called The King Tide.
Wow.
Which just popped up on Shudder. I'd never heard of it before. It's got that guy from the Lethal Weapon TV series that torpedoed the whole series because he hated
an asshole, yeah.
Yeah, he hated the Wayans guy who was on the show. Or whatever it is. I don't normally like it, but there's something about island, like if it's really watery, you know, then the folk horror works for me. I don't know what it is, but I enjoyed this movie. You know, it's about a girl who's got healing powers and the way she gets used by her island community and what happens to her family. I liked it.
King
So
Guy.
that's my boost. That's my boost. Tracy, what's yours?
Okay. My boost, I've been traveling a little bit and the world is changing. So part of my democratic, legitimate that I would say, yeah, democratic is like, oh my God, I'm not paying to see these films in the theater. And it's complicated because I've been traveling. I missed a film. It's still in theaters, God bless. But because of the premium VOD smart TV situation, I could just buy it.
Yeah.
I wanted to boost and lift it because John brought the Sentinel. So Sentinel is 1977.
Yeah.
Yep.
And women are back to 1957. So let's pretend, whatever. But I saw a film that I think is quite extraordinary. I hope it's nominated for Best Picture. What's making me happy is that people paid to see it at the box office and in the premium VOD window as producers, as John and I are. Great. If producers can finally be paid for our work, what would that be like? I wanted to lift a film that is complicated, and I don't want to offend anybody. Although, when you vote against Kamala for the rapist,
just tell us what the movie is, Tracy.
I want to lift a film that you could, if you have a smart TV, pay to watch it. I don't care how many people you put into your living room. I think it's one of the best films of the year I've seen. It's very Catholic. Conclave. Get over certain American actors.
I've yet to see it, but I keep saying every time we look for a movie to I say, let's watch Conclave.
Constantly I see people saying this is a really good movie. The subject matter and the PG rating give me so much pause.
It's not PG rating, and it's PG only, and because people don't think. Here's what I love about it. As a Gen Xer, I had a great mother. She took me to see The Year of Living Dangerously, Missing, The Killing Fields, Mississippi Burning.
At what age?
I was too young. I was like under.
Yeah,
I was under teenagers. What I'm saying.
I had a friend who his mom took him to The Exorcist when he was 6. I don't know if that's great.
I was nursed. My mom. One of my favorite stories about my mom, because we had no money and Dad was in the Pentagon because he was actually saving the world. She'd read The Exorcist, and so when I was being nursed, she took me to The Exorcist, and she's like, "You were very good. You didn't scream the whole time." I was like, "Well, that explains so much about my personality." Here's what I'm going to say about Conclave. It's going to upset if you are somebody who is center or left. It will upset old right people. I like that.
Yeah.
Challenge us. It's a beautiful film. Ray Fiennes is amazing. Everybody else is miscast. I'm not doing the thing. It's such a beautiful film. It will be nominated for Best Picture. So watch Conclave.
It's the new meme. There's a lot of memes from it.
Conclave is amazing. And I also, and this is me cheating, because Todd and I have had this conversation. So I'm sorry, John, but just bear with me for 30 seconds. One of my favorite films of the year. You see, I had that. Madam Web. It's terrible. I think.
Madam Web.
I think Dakota Johnson knows it's bad the way that Gina Gershon knows that Showgirls sucked. And the way she plays it in her entire interview structure makes me happy. That being said, Conclave is an amazing film. And the other film, if you guys who listen or watch our podcast, if you haven't seen, because it's easy to make fun of Dakota because he are like Nepo baby, blah, blah, blah.
Hilarious.
Daddy-o. Daddy-o. Dakota produced, funded, made it happen, got Sean Penn to agree. And Daddy-o is actually a remarkable film. And so I think one of the best films of the year is Dakota Johnson producing and starring and owning Sean Penn. Awesome. In Daddy-o, one of the worst films of the year that I like because I like camp, hashtag Madam Web. If you can be the female lead in both of those films, I want to promote both. And mostly I want to say, John, thank you for coming back to our
Yay.
And can you please bring another amazing film?
Absolutely.
Holy shit, I love you so much.
And is there anything you want to plug, like that people should look for the John the Baptist Shepherd mark on out there right now? No. Okay, that's fine. I think we're all kind of in that place.
We're all, by the way, the country's ending, so let's do
democracy's over. Can
I just be really inappropriate for a moment? I get to be the chick who's inappropriate because I have until January 20th before I'm canceled.
Is that what you consider marriage? Is cancellation?
No, because Trump has already said they're coming for us.
I see.
I'm marrying my amazing partner, January 18th.
Yay!
And
I'll be there. I just got my plane tickets.
It'll be illegal 3 or 4 days later. But what I'm saying is, and I get to do this because I have my own podcast with my awesome partner Todd. I love Todd so much. Like, it's not just because he's like cool and amazing, is like the actor all of you should fucking hire.
Someday I'll meet him in person.
He's a great. Yeah, we're gonna do a thing.
That'd be great.
And John, like I have so much love for both of you right now. I don't want to be like, oh, meh. But like, you guys are in a world of a toxic orange rapist who apparently half of our country who bothered to show up voted for. I just want to call out.
Not
John,
quite half.
John, yeah, that's right, 49.9.
It's not a mandate, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter anymore.
I'm just saying the fact that we're calling it a mandate is part of my issue.
Yeah.
I love you, Todd, as you know, and I thank you for this. And I want to thank, John for coming back to this program.
Of course. I love it. It's so much fun.
I want you to come back more frequently, and we'll talk about that. But I just want to say, because we're going into uncharted territory, so personal privilege, I'm going to take this moment. Todd, fucking talented and amazing. And when people are like, where's the cool straight guy? I'm like, and John,
I'm not very cool, but I am straight. I am straight.
You are. And I'm just saying, like, I feel really grateful that Tess Rafferty, who put me together with Todd in the fucking pandemic thing, whatever. And she's like, dude, if there's a dude version of you, it's Todd. I was like, I don't even know what that means. I love him. And so I just feel really grateful because I anytime I get to be on a podcast with Todd, he's making me better. And I love hearing his takes on film. We don't have to agree or not agree. And
you don't always agree. That's good.
That's good. Love it because we shouldn't agree. And John, like, I just like, dude, you know how much I've loved you for so long. So like,
thanks, Tracy. We love you too.
no, I just feel like let's do the thing. Like, come back, bring the next film. Because the conversation, we're going into dark times, my friend. The conversation about films, like, let's keep doing it. And that's all I'm going to say. And
we will.
And there are many, 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 many more shitty movies out there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so much. And you and I have made many of them, my friend, and we love them.
Yeah.
But I've
been in my shitty movies too. I like shitty movies. That's all I ever wanted to do as an actor was shitty movies. I don't need to do good ones. I'm not Tom Hanks. I don't need to do Here. I can do There, the movie that takes place after Here.
I just want to say, I'm just like, I'm really.
And why? Eventually, they'll get to why.
I think everybody was asking why about Here.
I just want to say, like, I think I'm going to feel good about being in a world where, you know, my friend Todd and John exist and we get to talk about movies. So I just want to say thank you both for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
We're going to close it down. John, I love you so hard. You need to pick the next movie and come back quicker.
Will do.
And do the thing. And thank you, everybody who's listening and watching, because we know this lives on all the podcasts. But for some of us, it's a really scary time. And I'm really grateful for a place where we can talk about film that made us feel good.
Yeah.
So keep listening.
And remember, we got your back, Tracy. You're good.
We'll see.
We're not gonna. I'm not.
You are your Sentinels.
Any of the
shit. God, I have hot guys as Sentinels. I am winning.
Yeah. I am your succubus. Okay.
Wow, that's really inappropriate, and I'm hot and turned on by it.
Peace out, everybody.
Pliskin.
Bye, Pliskins. We'll see you next week,
everybody. Mwah.